and today I'm talking about the trait of high sensitivity. Hello, who's ever on? I'm just going to give people a couple minutes to pop on. And this is a really important topic to me today, and I'm really grateful that you're here. I really feel like this is a message that I want to bring to other people, women in this group, but possibly more, who have been told much of their life that they're too sensitive and they feel different than others. They feel like something is wrong with them. And I'm here to tell you that this is totally normal. Hi, Uta. Beautiful to see you. This is something that's totally normal because it shows up in about 15 to 20% of the population. The trait was originally researched and kind of made public by Elaine Aron, who did the research in the 90s. And I've had her book on my shelf for many years. I think this was something I knew about myself for a long, long time, but did not want to really own or admit because I felt a lot of shame around it. And that's why this is a really important thing for me to share, because I have been through a journey of completely denying this about myself and feeling ashamed about it, to now embracing it and loving it and actually now sharing it. So in a way, it feels like a coming out for me, which is big. And yet, because it has meant so much to me to learn this about myself, and it has assisted me so much in my own life and in the life of my clients, that I want to share this with you so that you can experience validation, so that you can experience peace and acceptance, and so that you can learn to thrive and also see the beautiful gifts that this trait brings. So the other thing I want to share is why explain why it's important for me to share it in this group of finding fulfillment after 40. Because what I've learned over my life, I've been on a perpetual journey of finding fulfillment. That's why this group's name is so important to me. But what I've learned is that I can't find that fulfillment outside myself. I've searched through careers and relationships and experiences to feel a sense of fulfillment. And what I've learned is that the true fulfillment comes through me, comes within. When I know who I am, when I love who I am, when I embrace who I am and be my authentic self, then I find freedom, then I find fulfillment, then I find peace. So part of me finding fulfillment within has been coming to accept and know this high sensitivity trait that I have. So let me get into it. Okay, today is going to be a lot of information about what is an HSP, or highly sensitive person. I am going to be sharing for the next 2 days. So this is actually part one of a 3-part share, because I also want to get into not just what it is, but then how can you thrive, and how can you manage this, but then also thrive in the world and also bring your gifts that you have as a sensitive person to the world. Hi, Arlene. Great to have you here. So again, this is a trait that is biological. We have a brain difference than other people. I'm not the scientific expert on it, but I'm sharing with you everything I've learned through Elaine Aron as well as Julie Bieland. These are two people who have done a lot of research and writing about this, and I've learned these things from them. So it is in about 15 to 20% of the population, and it's something that's equally shows up in men and women. So that's really interesting, and another topic for another day of how this impacts men. And I have a lot of compassion for sensitive men, so because this world is not set up for them. But we're going to talk about how it impacts us as women today. And what's also interesting to me is that it's not just introverted people who experience the trait of high sensitivity. It's about 70% of the people that have it are introverts and 30% are extroverts. And since I'm an extroverted person, I think that's something that maybe helped me hide this trait for many, many years, to cover it up. So I thought that was really interesting to learn. So again, if this is you, I hope that this brings education, this brings validation. And I have basically come up with the trait or the things that, how this trait shows up in a couple different areas. So like how you experience your sensory, and how you experience the environment, how you're impacted mentally, how you're impacted emotionally, and how you're impacted physically. So I'm going to share from those points of view. So as far as the environment, how we experience the environment as high sensory people is that our senses are heightened. We notice everything, and we're really aware of the subtleties in our environment. And because of that, because we notice everything, we can't block things out. And when there's too much stimulation, sensory stimulation, it can be really overwhelming for us. But some of these sensory experiences would include bright lights, strong smells, coarse or scratchy fabrics that we feel on our body, loud noises. And again, these are things that we can't block out, and we can't not notice them. Another thing that we experience in our environment is that we can startle really easily. That was something that always happened to me growing up. And my people had to be really careful when they come around the corner, with me, just because I would like, ah. So that's one aspect. We often notice the subtle changes in people's facial expressions. We pick up on things. We're really in tune with other people's expressions and body language. And we are taking in so much data. So that's another way you can think of as an HSP, is that if people that don't have the trait, they're taking in maybe 1 cup of data, sensory data during the day. We're taking in maybe 100 cups of data. So that's a lot. And what that means is that we can easily be overwhelmed, and we need a lot of time to process that data. We need a lot of time to feel things, process it in our minds, and that usually means spending time alone and desensitizing ourselves. So we're going to talk more about that tomorrow when we get into how to thrive. As far as the emotional component, or how we're impacted emotionally as high sensitive people, we are affected by other people's moods. So when we are in a room with another person who has some really intense emotions, we can feel it. We can pick up on what's going on with another person. We have that heightened sense of awareness. And sometimes it's really hard for us to not absorb what other people are feeling. And so much so that sometimes we'll almost start to feel the same feeling and not be really clear or sure, is it me that's feeling this, or is this someone else that's feeling this? So I'm just curious, for those of you who are on right now, if you can relate to any of these things that I'm sharing so far as the sensory stimulation or the emotional. Feel free to make comments as we go along. But another thing that really impacts us emotionally is watching anything that's violent, the news, violent movies, TV. I just know for myself that I just can't do that stuff. And I've kind of been out of the loop a lot in life on what's really going on in the world, but it's just too much for me. Another thing I should say before, I should have said this at the beginning, but that this trait is on a spectrum, just like many things. We can have a lot of this, or we can have a little bit of it, or we can be somewhere in the middle. And I just know that I'm high up on the sensitivity scale. So that's why I can relate to almost every single thing in this list that I'm giving you. Now, some of you might relate to some of it and some of you might not. So to all of it. And that's totally fine. So I just wanted to preface that or make that note. As far as physical, some things that we can notice or some things that our sensitivity, how it shows up in the physical realm is that we can be really sensitive to caffeine, alcohol, medications, if we don't eat at regular intervals. You know, we are just more sensitive. Our systems are. Our physical body is more sensitive. I can't drink caffeine because it makes me too jittery. I have to eat at regular intervals because otherwise I get kind of nuts. It's not good to be around me. I am really sensitive to medications and all the side effects that they have. And I know that other HSPs are as well. So oftentimes we'll need lower dosages of things, or we need to look for a natural alternative in however we're working with our body. So also HSPs sometimes have had different kinds of autoimmune diseases or frequent headaches or digestive issues. And these are all kind of manifestations of how our sensitivity impacts our bodies. We can also be very sensitive to pain. And because of all the stimulation that we experience outside of us, that can actually impact us physically. So we can get depleted, we can get tired, we need a lot of sleep, and we can feel drained when we've been in crowds or traveling a lot or anything like that. Mentally, I just know that if we've got too much going on all at once and we're trying to accomplish a lot, we feel a lot of pressure, like to do too many things at a time. That can be really, really difficult for us. Like taking things at a pace that feels comfortable and maybe not as fast as other people is how we operate the best. The other thing that I wanted to share is that you might have experienced, this is another kind of clue to know if you're a highly sensitive person, and that is that you might have experienced growing up other people telling you that you're too sensitive, and you might have felt abnormal or crazy or weird or just like different than everybody else. And so this is really normal for HSPs. Like almost every HSP that I've connected with, they've had that experience where they just felt different growing up or they felt ashamed for who they were. And so that's not a comprehensive list of everything about being an HSP, but it is some of the nuggets that I've put together. And what I find is so interesting about this trait, and when I learned about it, it was such a aha, like light bulb for me, because now it makes total sense, but I never pieced together things like, oh, the fact that I'm sensitive to medications or that I can't take the same dose as other people, with that I, have a hard time going out in the sun and not having a hat, or that I can't watch violent movies. It's like, well, they're all different kinds of things, and yet it all is part of this trait. So it's like, it helps me understand. This makes sense. Now, there's a lot of positives about being this way. We take in so much data, and we feel things deeply, and we process things deeply, and we think about things deeply. But when you think about all that we're taking in, we're also taking in all the good. We're taking in all the beauty in the world. And we are noticing it with so much more depth than most people. So we can appreciate things so much more. I don't know if this ever happens to you, but when I walk in nature with my husband, I'm stopping and noticing like every little thing, like every little flower. Oh, look at this tree. I'm like always pointing out things to him. He's just walking straight by and not even noticing. But I'm taking in all of that, and I'm seeing the beauty and the amazing creation that's around me. So as sensitive people, we are deeply moved by nature, by art, by music. We notice and enjoy all the delicate and fine scents, sounds, tastes of works of art, cooking, whatever it is, right? Anything that we experience. Another positive trait about us is that we are really conscientious people. We want to get things done right. We want to do it well. We are detail oriented. We don't miss anything. We just are really conscientious about the work that we do. And so we usually make really good employees. We notice what needs to get done and we take care of it. Another aspect to being highly sensitive is that we're usually very kind, compassionate, empathetic people. We're courteous. And we don't understand when other people aren't the same way. We don't understand when other people aren't courteous. I mean, I have a hard time just walking down the street and seeing trash on the ground. I have to pick that up because I'm oh, these people are defiling the earth. I've been out there in my neighborhood sometimes with a trash bag picking up trash because it just hurts my heart to see that on the ground, But I mean, other people will walk right by that and not notice that. So I think that's a really positive thing, that we care about the environment, we care about the world, and we notice these things. Another thing that, another positive trait that we have is that we really want to connect with people on a deep level. We want to have those deep conversations. Small talk doesn't really work for us. I mean, we can go deep quick, and we thrive on that. It brings us so much meaning and fulfillment. That's why so many of us are coaches and healers and therapists, and we're good at it because we enjoy that kind of work and we want to get to the heart of whatever is going on with people. So we have this rich, complex inner life within ourselves, and then we're also able to kind of share in that with other people and in their complex richness that's going on within them. And we have an ability to really see the truth in what's going on. We can see deeply into people. And so again, that helps us to really be in tune with other people and assist them as a coach, healer, practitioner, whatever job it is where you're working with people and you're having to pay attention and notice to what's really going on with them. We can really be great healers and helpers because we can feel what people need and we know how to serve them. So again, this trait has positives and gifts that come with it, and then there's challenges. So some of the internal challenges that we experience, and I can relate a lot to these, is how hard on ourselves we can be and expect so much from ourselves. We're the most compassionate people, and yet sometimes we have the hardest time being compassionate with ourselves. We're also deeply impacted by the criticism of others. So we take things to heart, and it's hard for us to just blow things off, On the same token, we don't want to disappoint another person. We feel that, we wouldn't want to do the same thing to another person that we experience. So we don't want to be hurtful. It's hard for us sometimes to be critical to other people or set boundaries. And when someone is upset, it's hard for us to not kind of absorb that and think we did something wrong. So there's all this, it's really easy for us to kind of feel enmeshed with other people, to feel like we're taking on their energy and we're feeling what they're feeling. And, that is all part of the beauty and the challenge, right, of feeling things so deeply. We tend to be givers, and sometimes that means we don't give as much to ourselves, or we don't allow others to give to us. So that is the majority of what I want to share today. I know that's a lot, and I just dropped a bunch of on you guys because there's more to come. There's more that I want to share about. Now that you know all this, how is it that you can go through life in a way that works in a way where you feel like you're managing this. This world is not set up for us as sensitive people. And so we really have to be kind of our own advocates a lot of times. And we have to know who we are so then we can assist ourselves and take care of ourselves in a way that's going to work for us. One thing I want to leave with you, because tomorrow I'm going to go into a lot more tips on self-care and all of that. So I hope you'll join me. And then on day 3, I'm going to talk more about how we can bring our gifts to the world. So I hope you'll continue to join me. I'm going to be here every day at 11 o'clock for the next 3 days. But I just want to leave you with this thought for today. And that is just grace, ladies. I feel like having grace for ourselves and for others is so huge. The more that we can release judgment about being the way we are, the more we can release judgment about others and who they are, whether they're sensitive or not, whether they get you or not. The more we can experience that and feel that and let that wash over us, it's going to take us so much farther. And so please join me tomorrow. We're going to talk about bringing in that grace into our lives and just really embracing and loving who we are, because I know that this is such a key to fulfillment. Thank you for joining me, Renee, Arlene, Uta. It's beautiful to have you here. And I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Bye.